Okay, so here we're going to go ahead and compare these to the x-intercepts since we're comparing our trinomial to 0. All right, let's first see if we can factor it. So 3 times 8 is 24. Factors of 24 to add to be 10, 6, and 4. So we know this has got to be 3x times x. There is no other choice with 3x squared. So 3 times 2 will get us to 6, and then x times 4 will get us to 4x. So again, the inner terms and the outer terms are the like terms, they got 10x. Okay, now and again, I know there are other ways of factoring, but honestly, I think this is the most efficient method.
Are the signs in the right direction on that first one?
Are the signs
For
on
the final inequality?
right here? I believe so. We'll check in a
Yeah,
second.
the signs.
I believe they
I'm
are.
not. Okay, thank you.
We'll check in a second, though. Okay. I can get goofy sometimes. So anyway, we have the x-intercepts. We know this is an open up because 3 is positive. All right. And we want these to be greater than 0. So whatever x's we put in here are going to produce numbers that we usually call the y's. Okay, well, when is this graph above 0? When do we get positive y's for x's? To the right of the negative 4/3 and to the left of the negative 2. So that's why we're open on the x here in relation to the negative.
Okay,
4.
thank you.
You're welcome. Now, look, I can make a mistake. I'm just double checking too. And that's why we're pointing towards the x in the negative 2. Okay? So always look at the symbols in relation to the variable because the solutions are the variable. The solutions are related to the numbers, but the solutions are the variable. So we want to be greater, the solutions, and we want to be less than the negative 2. And this might be easier to see visually. Now with the other one, we could do that. We could multiply all that out, get this, but you're going to have to take a couple more steps. Why do that? Add 2, divide by 3, we get our binomial squared. Okay, and so now we can square root both sides. So when you have the positive, the symbol doesn't change. Whereas when you change it to a negative, the symbol does change because when you change the sign with inequalities, you reverse the symbol. That is what will automatically happen when you just put it over here. Because notice now we're open on the x plus 4, which is the reverse of pointing towards the x plus 4. All right, and then we just subtract 4 from all 3 sides and we're done. Much quicker. And again, once you get your head wrapped around this, you might be able to jump like I can. I can jump to here and then go to here immediately. On most occasions. There are days when my head ain't all there. All right, so again, notice what this means. That means we're pointing at the x on the right side, so less than the plus version of the square root. Open on the x on the left side, greater than the negative version of the square root. So that's really why I'm putting plus square root minus square root. Which one of these do we pick? Okay, so we know those are the solutions. Now, if we go back to the second step, here's our quadratic and altered vertex form being compared to 11. So we know it's open up. And so those two numbers, this would have been the y equals 11 line. Okay? All right, now let me point out a little trick with the quadratic formula. I wouldn't say it's a trick, it's just understanding what this means. Here I kind of summarize some notes. Okay? I'll point that to you out in a second, but I wanted to show you that it was there in case I forget. All right, so this first problem, we could have done this with the quadratic formula. Okay, now when you do this, always make it an A positive. So if this was negative, multiply everything by -1, then you got to reverse the symbol. Because again, it's easier to not have an extra layer of complexity. It's a lot easier when A is positive. Okay, so we got our A positive. Again, if you have to change the sign of the A, you got to multiply by negative. Don't forget to reverse the symbol. Because as soon as you multiply by negatives or divide with inequalities, you got to reverse the symbol. Okay, so notice what the side of the x is. The positive x squared side, we're open on. So in the quadratic formula, for the positive square root, we're going to have open on the x. And that means on the other side of this, since we changed the sign, we're going to have the minus square root. And notice that's true. We were greater than the one that had on the right side, which would have been the plus square root, and we're less than the one we had on the next side, which would have come from the negative square root. So that is an option. I just want to point that out, especially if you can't factor this. Right, then you have that option. So just to repeat, if you want to do that technique, always make the a value positive. So if you multiply both sides by negative to make the a value positive, you got to reverse the symbol. Once you got your a value positive and you got your symbol, whatever side of the inequality is on the x squared side. So in this case, we're open towards the left, the x squared side. So this x will be greater than the positive of the square root. And then the other side will be less than the negative square root. If instead we had this pointing in the other direction, now we have pointing to the left where the positive x squared is. So in this formula, we're pointing towards the x on the positive side and open on the negative side. Notice that's true, because then that would have been in between. That would have been less than 0. So notice we're less than the number that came from the positive square root, pointing at the x here. And we're greater than the number coming from the negative square root, open on the x there. So again, I hope it's not too overwhelming, but that could be good to know on certain occasions, right? So look at that. We've got a hammer, we got a wrench, we got a screwdriver. Our tool shed test is getting really big. By the end of the year, we'll have so many tools in that tool chest. You'll be pumping up your biceps to carry it around with you. Okay, and this is just kind of a summary of everything. Okay? All right, so the homework is out of section 3.5. So if you want to look at the textbook, the section 3.5 is what this is on. So I just gave you just that. So you can see it's basically what we just did. And the top, you can just use the graphs. Okay, I'll just hang out with y'all. We probably got about 9 minutes left.